Howdy, stew mates. It is chapter 4 or week 4 of book club for the Artist Way. And a couple things. One, I almost skipped reviewing week four's recovering a sense of integrity and talking about things that were happening to me that I was attributing to the Artist Way. I'm like, no, I'm going to go ahead and finish reading chapter 4. It was all in everything that's in my head that I was going to talk about. She was in my head during week 4. But let's go back quickly and look at week 3. Week three's chapter is recovering a sense of power. And let's see, anger is fuel. Anger is a map that shows your boundaries and desires. Synchronicity, the universe responds to worthy and expansive plans. We'll get to that in a minute. Um, Possibility is more frightening than impossibility. I brought that up in a discussion with some folks this week, and that one kind of rings true with a lot of people. The next section was shame, stems from past experiences that block creativity and can be triggered by criticism or childhood experiences. We talked about that. Not all criticism is harmful. Constructive feedback can help growth. Makes sense. And as we're building on this, I'm using the pyramid model for the Artist Way, where the first week is in the basic tools was like building the foundation, and each week we're building on top of that. And I don't know if you've noticed or not, but if you finish reading week 4, we're about halfway done with the actual text of the book, but we're only a third of the way through the program. So, yeah, of course, chapters 1, 2, and 3 are longer and build up that needs more text and information to build the foundation that we're building on so that as we're getting in later into the program, we already have this base knowledge and trust and power and identity we've created for the first couple weeks. So anyway, what else did we talk about in week 3? Key takeaways. Choose what to do, what you want to do before figuring out how. Yeah, once you set your mind to, I want to do this, your brain starts finding ways of making it happen. Um, Tasks for the week were describe 5 traits you liked about yourself as a child and make a list of friends who generally support your creative journey. I'm always kind of going through that in my mind anyway. So for that to be an exercise, an assignment for me, it's kind of what I do all the time anyway. So, but I hope that you went through, and if that's not how you naturally think, that you went and describe the 5 traits you liked about yourself as a child and making a list of the friends who generally support you in your creative journey. All right, that's week 3. Let's get into week 4. Oh my goodness. So the big thing that I want to pull up on this, which is recovering a sense of integrity, is in week 2, page 50 in my 30th anniversary edition version of the book. I don't know what page it is in yours. And we talked about this in week 2, which is taking credit for the change that you make. So if you've been doing the morning pages and artist dates and working through this program and thinking through and creating positive thoughts and being around positive people and opportunities and things start happening to you, understand where to take credit for that, where that comes from. Um, for me, all these changes that hit me this week, I can link back to part of partially to the Artist Way and spending this time for the last month going through the Artist Way and these exercises. And even if I'm dragging my feet and going, I didn't like doing this before, um, gosh golly, it works. Um, I've been going, reading Creativity Inc. I'm now reading about the history of Second City, um, comedy clubs, and improv. What else? I have 3 or 4 podcasts and books I'm going through. Um, and a lot of stuff has happened to me in the last week. And I'm going to attribute that to a lot of because of what we're going through with going through this exercise of the artist way. Um, Not a big fan, I'll be honest, of the chapter titles. Recovering a sense of integrity. I don't know what that means. Anyway, so a lot of things have happened to me as I'm reading through week four's chapter. I'm going, yep, yep, she's in my brain. She's in my brain. This is all stuff that's happening to me. And going back to week two, I am giving credit to partial credit to going through this exercise with us in the book club. So just going, that's my lead in to week four. A lot of exciting things have been happening with me, but let's go through the chapter. Um, where to go? So we'll start. I identified the section, does I feel okay, which is something you would put in your morning pages, mean I feel resigned, accepting, comfortable, detached, numb, tolerant, pleased, or satisfied? What does I feel okay mean? Okay is a blanket word for most of us. At the root of a successful creative recovery is the commitment to puncture our denial, to stop saying it's okay when in fact it's something else. The morning pages press us to answer what else? Yes. The simple when you meet some, you're walking down the halls in some place or the sidewalk or a restaurant, you see somebody, hey, how's it going? That's okay. We all know that's not the answer. So if you're telling yourself it's okay, dig deeper into that because you're lying. You're not really lying to yourself. You're not really fully exploring what you're going through. Um, the morning pages will not allow us to get away from this evasion because we tend to avoid them. So yes, if you're telling yourself, "Yeah, I'm okay," that's evading what's really going on in your head, and you need to explore that. That's what morning pages are for. Am I doing morning pages? Not really, as the way you're supposed to, but I'm writing a series of articles right now that are so fulfilling in me exploring my creative foundations that I kind of feel like they're morning pages. Um, she refers to morning pages as a spiritual, performing spiritual chiropractic work. They realign our values, and if we are to the left or right of our personal truth, the pages will point out the need for course correction. I can see that. As a subtle but significant shift. Um, and what else I wrote? Uh, oh, later on, a couple pages, a couple sections down from that. She's talking about somebody who went through morning pages and discovered that she really wants to write comedy. And no wonder all of her friends were writers, so was she. Um, Chekhov advised if you want to work on your work, work on your life. That's another way of saying that in order to have self-expression, we must first have a self to express. That is the business of morning pages. I myself feel this way and that way and this way. No one else need to agree with me, but that is what I feel. How many of us remind ourselves why we're artists? Because we associate with other artists. Not that we need them to tell us we're artists, but hanging around other creatives help us remind ourselves who we are. Um, After I got my MFA, I was hanging around a lot with other MFAs, and that was great because we had these wonderful conversations. But because everyone in our circle was an MFA student or graduate, we forgot what it was like not to be an MFA or not to think, act, do, perform as an MFA. And so I realized I needed to add variety to my community of people I interact with outside of just MFA people who display in fine art galleries. Um, she also goes on by saying the process of identifying a self inevitably involves loss as well as gain. We discover our boundaries, and those boundaries, by definition, separate us from our fellows. As we clarify our perceptions, we lose our misconceptions. As we eliminate ambiguity, we lose illusion as well. We arrive at clarity, and clarity creates change. When I was younger, I was convinced I could do anything. It's like I could be a heart surgeon. I could be a brain surgeon. I could go and an architect. I mean, I knew that if I applied myself, I could do anything. As I'm getting older, I thought it was because I was getting older, the likelihood of me perfecting brain surgery with my inability to be as dexterous as I used to be, that I was being limited by my ability to be a brain surgeon, when in reality was I no longer have a desire to be a brain surgeon. Not that I ever had a big one before, but I always view that as that's a possibility. A lot of things, as I'm getting more um, understanding and appreciative of who I am and what I want to do, the things that I could do start falling off and they'll be no longer become um, of interest. So anyway, moving on. The nice thing is these are quicker chapters now, but that doesn't mean the content is less intense. I think I wrote more notes in this chapter than I have in like all the previous chapters. Um, Her whole chapter, she's advocating morning pages and artist dates, and I 100% back those. Um, I think that implementing those in your career and practice and life have benefit. So I hope you're doing those. Um, as we lose our vagueness about ourselves, our values, our life situation, we become available to the moment. It is there in the particular that we contact the creative self. Until we experience the freedom of solitude, we cannot connect authentically. This is where my change has been happening the last week or so. So my wife was out in Colorado for a week and a half, helping her parents go through some health issues. Everything's fine. Um, but that means I was left at home alone, and I used that time as a type of retreat. Um, it was not quite a week and a half of solitude and non-speaking, but I was able to really focus in on what I was thinking and doing without having to balance that with the needs of the person I'm living with. Um, I love her and I missed her, but I enjoyed my week of solitude because I got so much thinking and working done during that time. Um, it's just been an interesting change. And like I said, as I'm reading chapter 4, I'm like, she's in my head. Um, so yeah, just I created I created a retreat, and in that solitude, the ideas landed and blossomed. Oh my goodness, my writing and understanding of who I am and the work that I'm making all of a sudden just went and came together. It's been a phenomenal week and a half. Shifts in taste and perception frequently accompany shifts in identity. One of the clearest signals that something healthy is afoot is the impulse to weed out, sort through, and discard old clothes, papers, and belongings. So ADHD, having hoarding tendencies, and as an artist, everything has potential. My basement down here is just jam packed with stuff with art potential. Um, but I'm getting to the point where I'm going through going, do I need 17 boxes of old magazines to do collage work with? Probably not, because I don't actually spend a lot of time doing collage work. So I really don't need 17 boxes of magazines. Do I need 8 boxes of old bottles? Probably not. I grab them and look at them. They have potential. I don't think I've ever, well, I've done one installation piece that had bottles in them. I probably don't need 8 boxes of them at this point in time, to be honest. I went through yesterday, going through the boxes in the basement, going, okay, this is stuff I'm willing to let go of, but I'm not ready to let go of. At least I'm sorting through, going, okay, this is stuff most likely I'm not going to be using. So this whole impulse to weed out, um, yeah, like I said, I'm reading this chapter going, she's in my brain, and I don't mind. Usually, I don't like people in my brain, but I don't mind it in this case. When the search and discard impulse seizes you, two cross currents are at work. The old you is leaving and grieving, and the new you celebrates and grows strong. Yeah, like I said, the writing I've been going through lately, I was up till 5 last night writing articles. It started off with on my Facebook page is where they are right now. I had a dream where I met Tom Hanks walking on the sidewalk and had fan and this is all in the dream. This didn't actually happen. So in the dream, ran into Tom Hanks on the sidewalk, did the fanboy thing, asked him for a picture. He said yes. I said, I love your work because that's what we're supposed to say when we meet people that are famous. He's like, oh, great. Which ones, which ones appeal to you? And I answered Big and Toy Story. And he kind of gave me a little surprising look. And I went through this whole analysis of why Big, his characters in Big and Toy Story have a big impact on me as an individual. That was a quick article I barfed out, put up there, but that has now led to a follow-up article that's been published also on my Facebook page. Probably should put them in Substack. Anyway, um, but I now have 5 to 6 more articles in various states of development, all following on from this short dream I had where I ran into Tom Hanks on the sidewalk and I said, I love your characters in Big and Toy Story. And not analyzing, but realizing that how movies have impacted me and my creative process and how I view the world. So anyway, so going back to the book, um, the old you is leaving and grieving, while the new you celebrates and grows old or grows strong. For me, it's not really an old leaving and a new growing. It's more of a re-understanding of the new and the old. Um, but still, it makes sense. Um, Next page. Um, the analogy that I use is that once we engage in the process of morning pages and artist dates, we begin to move at such velocity that we do not even realize the pace. Again, she's oh my finger go. She was in my head because during all of this realization and thinking and writing and processing of who I am and what I am and what I make and why, I felt like I was running faster than I could keep up with. And um, I just felt like I was taking on more than I could handle and process. But rather than running away from that, I embraced head on into take on that challenge and excitement and energy. And I became able to handle this giant fire hose of thinking and processing that was going on in my head. So I feel like I am running at a much faster pace, but not out of control. I was on a Zoom with some other folks this week, and the analogy of if you've seen the movie The Matrix, and I use a lot of movie references. Anyway, at the end of The Matrix, when Neo has a leveling up of understanding, and he's fighting Agent whatever Agent Guy is, and agents can move like super hyper fast speed. And at first, Neo was having a tough time keeping up with them. Once he leveled up in some level of understanding, he's able to, like in slow motion, one hand defend and deflect everything the agent is doing to him that used to be a super hyper speed, but now in Neo's mind, it is so slow motion that he can stop and block every attack by the agent with one hand, and the other hand behind him, just kind of this sense of confidence. That is what I think Cameron is talking about in this, that you begin to move at such velocity that you don't even realize the pace. Um, I think that's a good thing. There will be a change of energy patterns. Yes. Can you tell that if you go back to like the first week of these and listen to me talk, and this week, there's a different energy and pace going on. Um, you may find your candor unsettling. I don't like that as a sentence that will leave your mouth. Or I think that's great. In short, your tastes and judgments and personal identity will begin to show through. Yes, I was on a Zoom, the aforementioned Zoom with some folks, and I did not connect with the speaker at all. He was very type A, um, champion athlete, giving this locker room rah rah speech and approach does not appeal to me. When I did do athletics in high school, it was like track, it was tennis, it was all things that I did that I didn't have to rely on others. I hate playing Pictionary. I hate playing Pictionary because you have to depend on the other people's abilities. I am a solo person. I challenge myself, and that's great. So in this Zoom, this guy's going on and giving this rah-rah speech and locker room and running. And I was asked to ask a question. So I'm like, I'm just gonna say up front, I don't connect with your message and your content and delivery. I understand what you're trying to say. It's not appealing to me. And he was completely shocked. He's had this look of shock on his face. He's like, I he couldn't grasp that other people out in the world don't think like he thinks. Of course, now I'm doing the same thing because I'm doing all these things. Like I'm telling you all these wonderful, wonderful things from my perspective, and you may have none of them. I understand that, and that's fine. Somebody is going to hear these and go, yes, I understand, I connect. But he was so shocked that I up front told him, I'm not connecting with you at all. And what did he do? He went right back into his routine and delivery without any changing or accepting that maybe I'm not connecting with him and he should try a different approach. He went even harder in on I will give you more of a locker room in the college football championship halftime speech where we're behind by 20 points. Sorry, that doesn't motivate me. But he was saying go out for a walk and you have to be healthy to run your business. I get that. Um, Walking is not something I enjoy doing. Walking around my block is probably one of the most boring things I can think of in the world. But as he's lecturing us and rah-rahing us into going out for walks for the physical, I made the connection of, or I could view going out for a walk around my block as my artist date. At that point in time, it became much more doable and something I'd be interested in doing when I viewed it as an artist date as opposed to um, the physical fitness aspect of it. So, but again, going back to her, you may find things like, I don't like that coming out of your mouth. Yeah, I was much more open to telling him, yeah, I don't get it than I would have in the past. Buried dreams and exercise, the next section in the book, go for it. I did nothing for me. Reading deprivation. This was written 30 years ago before cell phones. So I get her point of you need to stop and control the inputs you have. But we have these. We have our cell phones. They're with us all the time. Um, but controlling your diet and what you put on the phone into your head is under your control. And so her reading deprivation section, contemplate and consider that. When I wake up now in the morning and I do grab my phone, is to start writing a new article, is to read on my Blinkist positive books or books that make me think. It's not about news. It's not about catching up on emails. Um, that can happen later in the day. So anyway, so that's I think where she's going with reading deprivation. Um, and then yeah, sooner or later, if you're not reading, you will run out of work and be forced to play. That is interesting. If you are always filling your time with mindless TV or doom scrolling on your phone, you are not giving yourself permission to explore your thoughts and to start playing with things. So her whole point is put things away for a week and fill your time and find your way to fill your time with something else that leads to play or your artwork as opposed to doom scrolling. So I'm just kind of modernizing that. And that is the end of this chapter. Going through the tasks. She has 10 tasks identified. None of them jumped out at me, but one of them got me thinking about Harry Potter and the ridiculously spell, whatever, whichever. I don't remember the book. I don't remember the movie. I just remember that when you encounter something in the Harry Potter world that frightens you, they cast a spell to make it ridiculous. So convert a spider, if you're fighting spiders, into a spider that's wearing roller skates and it can't skate, so it's sliding around. So it makes you um, rethink the things that you fear into a way that makes you laugh at it. So that is my task challenge for you for this week is cast the ridiculous OC that spell on yourself. What are you taking so seriously that it frightens you? And cast that spell on you and find a way to make it funny. Um, if you are taking something way too seriously, make fun of yourself for it and just like go crazy with it. So yeah, so I can't say it, but hopefully it makes sense to you. The ridiculous, oh, that's whatever. Cast that spell on yourself this week once you're getting like to a moment of feeling too muchness. So anyway, that is this week. Um, week 4, which is a sense of integrity. Like I said, I'm not quite sure what the section titles aren't really doing a whole lot connecting with me for the content, but at least for me, this week is starting to pull together all the things on the base of the pyramid that we're building. It's starting to build, and I'm seeing the changes from it. But I also I have other influences and diets in my stew. I have other ingredients coming into my stew besides this, but I'm seeing how this is kind of the glue that's pulling a lot of things together. So it's kind of like it's the thickening. So like a roux in your stew, it helps thicken it and make it do like a nice thick silky stew. I'm gonna call Arsway, at least for this week, the roux of my stew. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know how things went with you. Did you have a breakthrough this week? Um, Following through the artist way. Um, See you next week and comments, thoughts below. Let me know how it's going.